of you for being here tonight. This event was originally supposed to be a conversation between me and Charlie. Now it will be a conversation about Charlie. It will be a conversation about his life and what his assassination means for our country. The enemies of civilization, the assassin, as well as the people who excused and cheered him on, thought that they could stop Charlie Kirk's movement. In reality, they have not even stopped his lecture tour. Charlie's brightness came not primarily from his professional accomplishments. They came from his character. You did not have to be a personal friend of his to notice it. You could see it in everything he did. There was simply a light and a levity to the man. And it was constant, even when he was stressed, even when he was arguing, which was frequent, even when he suffered setbacks. That light and that levity stemmed from one fact: Charlie's Savior lives. We're mourning Charlie right now. And I think it's right to mourn Charlie. I think it's right to grieve. I have no use for the happy-clappy kind of modern religion that tells us we can't be sad when our friend dies simply because we have faith in his salvation. Death is bad. Murder is bad. People who commit murder need to be punished. People who celebrate murder need to be punished too. Death reminds us that something has gone wrong. Death was not part of the original plan. Jesus wept at the death of his friend just moments before he raised him from the dead. We can know that in everything God works for good with those who love him, who are called according to his purpose, while still recognizing the difference between good and evil. We can entrust Charlie's soul to our Lord Jesus Christ as Charlie always entrusted himself, while still knowing that his assassin took something from us that he didn't have to take. What the assassin took was not even Charlie. He could not have taken Charlie. Charlie belongs to God, as do we all. What the assassin took from us, more precisely, is what we imagined Charlie's future would be. That is part of what makes death so shocking. The realization that our plans are not guaranteed. Man plans and God laughs. But, we say, he was going to do this. Oh, she was going to do that. We were going to speak at the University of Minnesota together. We weren't, actually. We do not have ultimate control over those things. Everyone who knew Charlie, and many people who did not know Charlie personally, knew that he would be president one day. We knew it. We knew it. But would is a conditional verb, and it depends upon ifs that are out of our control. Charlie would have been president, but he won't be. In the wake of Charlie's death, many people are presuming to declare what he would have believed about this or that issue. Not what he did believe, mind you. What he would have believed, what he would have said if he had lived longer. This kind of talk is as absurd as it is unseemly. It is appointed for men to die once and after that the judgment. With the exception of Charlie's beloved wife and the people very closest to him, those who would chime in for Charlie today are appropriating an authority that does not belong to them. It's a usurpation. At best, it is a waste of time. And one thing we all know Charlie never did was waste time. He worked about 27 hours a day, 8 days a week. Charlie accomplished more in his 31 years than most people could accomplish in many lifetimes. His most public accomplishments were political. His most important were religious. He wanted to be remembered for his faith. He wanted to help as many souls to heaven as he could. If you want to honor Charlie, Go to church, read the Bible, pray, and do it right now.
It's so great to be with you. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. I am thrilled to be here with you guys tonight. And of course, my only sadness is that it's not with Charlie. Charlie asked me to go on the tour with him a couple of months ago, and we were going back and forth on which stop would make the most sense. And he'd proposed one date and I couldn't do it, or the other way around. And we settled on Virginia Tech a while ago. And he was so looking forward to this. I was just talking to Erica, and she wanted to tell me that, number one, wanted me to tell you, he's so looking forward to this. He so wanted to be here with you. And that she is so proud of you for showing up. And she also wanted me to tell you that she's got your back. Turning Point has got your back. I guess I wanted to start with just thanking you for showing up. Showing up. They say half of life is showing up, and you did that. And in this particular circumstance, showing up is courageous, given what happened with Charlie. And I'm sure many of you thought about it. I'm sure many of you had conversations with your parents about it. Is it safe? Should I do it? Am I going to be okay? And I had conversations with my family about it too. But I think we all came for the same reason. Obviously, to hear me. But really, the reason is to send a message that we will not be silenced by an assassin's bullet, by a heckler's veto, by a left-wing woke professor, or anyone who tries to silence us from saying what we really believe. Those days are done. They're really done. The last in-person conversation I had with Charlie was in July, and you just saw a tiny clip of it at the end of that reel. We were in Tampa at the Turning Point event, and we did a long segment. We talked about Epstein, we talked about a bunch of stuff, and we finished it with Charlie asking me, what advice do you have for all these students here? Because it was the Student Action Summit, so it was a bunch of young people just like you. And it wasn't rehearsed. He didn't know what I was going to say. We just happened to have a lot of shared values. And I said, say the thing you really want to say. Say what you really believe. Say what's actually in your heart. Don't go along with what the professor wants you to say just to get a pat on the head or a good grade. It's truly, deeply important. And let me explain why. You know the basics, but let me explain more. For too long, what's been happening in college campuses and high schools and middle schools, for that matter, and possibly below, is that students who are right-leaning or conservative in thought or independent-minded even, and may have heterodox thinking on whatever issue of the day it is, have been clamming up. Because we all know very well that 99% of our professors are leftists, and they're not going to like us if they find out that we're not. And they will like us more if they at least think we might be leftists, like there's still a chance. And we're not going to get as good a grade on our paper if we write right-wing things instead of left-wing things. If we take all the positions that they want us to take, especially on cultural issues, we're going to be well-liked and well-graded. And maybe you want to go to med school. Maybe you want to go to grad school. So your grades matter. So you figure, I'm just going to play along for the short term, for the long-term gain. And then finally, maybe when I get out there into the world, I can say how I feel. At that point, I can express my actual beliefs. But what happens is, you get into grad school or med school or law school, and you just run into a bunch more of the same kind of professors. They're just giving you a different degree. So the game has to keep going, because your grades don't stop mattering when you get into law school or med school or grad school. You could argue they matter even more, because now you're competing for your real job at the end of this particular stint. So you need to have the perfect days in your med school. You've got to, these are competitive people. We're all doctors, we're all lawyers, we're all grad students. So you keep doing it, this routine. And then you get hired at a hospital or a law firm or a company that likes these grades and has no idea who you really are because you've done nothing. You haven't put anything on your resume that would telegraph you might not be like-minded to them. You might actually be on the right side of the aisle. So they welcome you into their company. And then you may find out the hard way, a year or two or more into it, that there has been a mismatch because they're not looking for somebody who thinks the way you do, who loves America the way you do, who believes in personal integrity the way you do. They're looking for a woke duck that's going to follow in line behind without making too much noise. And they see on your resume, you are such a person. You never caused trouble. You didn't put Turning Point USA on your resume while applying. You didn't walk into that interview with your advanced history or politics and gov essay and a D on the front of it, and you didn't hold it up like a badge of honor saying, let me show you what I wrote and why I got this D. Because I refused to write that capitalism is bad. I refused to write that men can become women. I refused to say the Second Amendment should be repealed. I refused to say that hate speech is not free speech. I refused and told that employer right from the get-go who you really were, so that at a minimum, if you weren't like-minded, you had a basic respect for the fact that you stand up for what you believe in and you don't lie about what's important to you.
What practical steps do you plan to take, or you think the government should take, when it comes to higher education not evolving into indoctrination camps?
I like what Margaret Thatcher said. She said, first you need to win the argument, then you can go win the votes. But when you're talking specifically about somebody who becomes so radicalized, somebody who becomes so perverted in their thinking, somebody who is, there are people that see that and hear that and feel that, and they see it. And we have to watch out for those. Those are our friends, those are our neighbors. It's not, law enforcement does an amazing job, but they can't be everywhere to everything. It goes to this question earlier about mental health. We have a long, long ways to go to assessment and how we treat it. And I don't want to oversimplify it. Again, it also, I think, goes back to this degree of tolerism, that I just think there's some things, some actions, some places that are just, we should not tolerate them. And we should not put up with them. And we shouldn't have to live with them. And there has to be a way to balance their constitutional rights with our right for freedom, right? I'm wearing this shirt, right? Freedom, right? Yes. Freedom is also your ability to live the life that you want to lead, the way you want to lead it. We're all children of God. And if we start with that premise that we're all children of God, we can deal with it compassionately, but it doesn't mean we have to tolerate some of the things that are being spewed. And when it crosses over that line to not just hatred, but it crosses over the line to say, oh, we're going to act out and thrash out in violence, those people need to be arrested. They need to be detained. They need to be booked. And some of them need to be incarcerated. So that has to happen, and it's not happening now. Nationally, locally, it's just not.
Tyler, can I just bring up something on that one, Tyler?
Sorry, what?
Is that okay? So I want to bring up something because you specifically asked about universities, right, and college. And one of the things that I've been most concerned about over the past couple of decades is the lack of thought diversity on college campuses. It's deeply troubling. And I want to give a shout out again to the legislature. We worked very closely with Utah State University on something that I think is groundbreaking. It will, over the next couple of years, it will be in every university in the state. But we're going to start teaching Western thought again to all of our freshmen in this is not, I want to be very careful. This is not conservative thought. We're not trying to replace forcing liberal ideas on all of our students with conservative ideas. This is the founding of Western thought. These are the great books. This is Aristotle. These are the Stoics. This is Marcus Aurelius. It's the great British philosophers and the Scottish philosophers. These are the people that, and it's our founders. These are the people that our founders relied on to start this great nation. This is what Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass and Martin Luther King, this is what all of us studied in college until about 20 years ago when it just became whatever you want to do is fine with us. And that's not okay. We have to have a foundation to even have these debates. And we've lost that foundation. And we're getting that foundation back here in the state of Utah.
So in my opinion, the mental health crisis in America is the biggest threat to the future of society, and the numbers speak for themselves as in the past 20 years, the reported depression and anxiety rates have gone from 8% to 20%. It feels like the scale of this mental health issue is overlooked and frankly being abused, whether that is through social media ecospheres and algorithms within school systems or promotion of radical left agendas such as transgenderism. So how will people realize this massive issue that affects all of us right now, and what should we do about it?
Look, it's an epidemic in our country. Depression, anxiety, fentanyl, suicide, all spreading like wildfire. And it's not an accident that happened over the same period that we see the rise of psychological and political poisons. Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism. These are symptoms, in my view, of a deeper void of purpose and meaning in our country, particularly amongst young people. I'm not young compared to you guys, but in my generation, millennials, we see it. In your generation, Gen Z, we see it. You have to fill that void with the real thing. So here's what I don't think is going to work. I don't think just symptomatic whack-a-mole is going to work. I think we have to fill that void, that black hole, with the real thing, with a vision of American national identity that runs so deep that it dilutes the poison to irrelevance, with the self-confidence that comes from having two parents in the home, in a stable nuclear family that gives a kid the foundation to believe they can jump higher when they do so from a stable foundation. The revival of faith in our country, mediated not through the government, but through our culture. Something that Charlie Kirk, I know, was very focused on as well. Filling that vacuum in the heart of every person. It was actually a French scientist who once said that, it's Pascal, Blaise Pascal, who said if you have a void the hole the size of God in your heart and God doesn't fill it, something else will instead. So the way I look at it is faith, family, patriotism, start with just pick two. Okay, it can't be zero. That's where we're beginning. Now, where can public leaders, such as in government, make a difference? I think our schools are a good opportunity to start. Early detection in schools is a big opportunity. Use an education system that revives the self-confidence of our young people. Bring back physical education at a young age. Bring back the presidential fitness test. PE as early as kindergarten. Physical health and mental health are two sides of the same coin. Serve healthier food in the cafeterias. Revive civic education even in high school. I personally think we do that with some standards. I think every high school senior who graduates from a high school in this country should have to pass the same civics test that, frankly, every immigrant has to pass before that immigrant becomes a voting citizen. You got to know something about your country, to be proud of your country, to be proud of yourself. But I want to give you credit for putting your finger on the pulse of something that knows no partisan boundary. If you look at the numbers, it knows no demographic or partisan boundary. And we really want to fix the country. We're going to fill that vacuum in the heart of a generation. It's the job of leaders like myself, governors like those of us who are here, and leaders at every level, high and low, including the household, to play their role in stepping up and reviving that missing sense of purpose in our country. And if we do that, I think the peak of this mental health epidemic will be behind us.
Thank you.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate it.
I also wanted to start with some things that I have personally learned that I think might be helpful as you start your journey. I'm a recovering alcoholic. My mother died when I was 13 years old. She committed suicide. We've had 3 suicides in my family. I contemplated suicide when I was younger. It was kind of a family thing that just made sense. Suicide and suicidal thoughts, if anybody has had them, you are under the grip of a really powerful lie, and your life is worth living. And once you conquer that demon, life just gets better and better and better. But when I was really young, I knew what I was going to do, and I believe I heard a prompting from the Lord when I was 8. And the Lord said to me, what you do in life will be a turning point. And I didn't know what that meant. I was 8 years old. But I knew I was going to be in radio. So I started doing radio. I got into radio when I was about 13. And I have been doing it now for, this is my 49th year of doing broadcast. And because I didn't understand the Lord early on like I do now, I thought I was supposed to do something great in the industry. And I was very successful very young, and I made a lot of money when I was very young. And that is a very bad combination: fame, fortune, and 20 years old. And every time I would make the next milestone, it wasn't it. And I was more and more empty every step of the way until I reached my 30s and I was an alcoholic. No one would work with me because I was an angry alcoholic, and I had a lot of things that I had not dealt with. So I want to tell you some of the things that I have learned in my journey, because once I fixed those things, once I dealt with those things, once I found out who I really was, not what I thought I was supposed to be, nothing else, just who I really truly was, everything changed overnight. So let me start. I wrote down 9 things that I think are true and will shape you into the person you were born to be. Number 1, question everything. Everything. Anyone who tells you, don't ask that question, run from them. Question everything. Thomas Jefferson said in a letter to his nephew, Peter Carr. Peter Carr was young, his mother had died, then his father is on his deathbed, and he asked Thomas Jefferson, Thomas, you're the smartest man I know. Could you please help my son in his educational upbringing? So when Peter became of age, he wrote him this long letter, and he said, in mathematics, you have to do this. In literature, you have to read this. You have to speak these languages. I love this one. Never read a book outside of its native language. You will miss too much. The last one was religion. And he said, when it comes to religion, above all things, fix reason firmly in her seat and question with boldness even the very existence of God. For if there be a God, he must surely rather honest questioning over blindfolded fear. Amen. That changed my life. That gave me permission to question everything. I no longer had to feel stupid. I never had to feel guilty for questioning God. I remember I read that and I thought, you know what, God, I don't really know you. I know you because of what I have been taught. I know you because of what everybody has told me. I know you through church. I know you through the Bible, but I don't really know you. I don't know if any of this is true. So I'm going to question with boldness, and I'm going to start here. I don't believe in you. I don't reject you. But if you are my Father in heaven, you have built this entire system, so I will find you. I imagined if it were me and I'm a dad, and my children had to find me on their own to have real meaning and purpose. If I built a room and it was a round room and it didn't look like there were any doors or windows, it was just this round room, that's all they ever knew, everything I put in that room would point to me. I would send them every possible sign I exist. I'm on the other side of this wall. So if my heavenly Father exists, there's signs everywhere.
There are moments when you don't know where to turn, when the money's not there, when the courage is gone, when you feel completely unseen. But what you do have is conviction. And conviction is enough for God to move mountains. And then, as if to drive that message home, I saw something else yesterday that a lot of you guys saw. I saw a photo of a dumpster full of Turning Point posters, signs with my face on them, and that's the reason my dad hopped on a plane and flew from LA to here to make sure that I wasn't alone. these posters were tossed away like garbage. Half the students here didn't want me or Turning Point USA here. They didn't want our voice, our values, our faith, or our presence. For a second, it kind of stung because, let's be real, we're human. And after what happened to Charlie, it's scary to see something like that happening. But then God whispered, "What they meant to silence you, I'll use to strengthen you." So, you can throw my face in the trash, but you can't throw away the truth. You can rip up signs, but you can't rip up conviction. You can hate my presence, but you cannot cancel purpose. God has a funny way of using what the world discards to raise up warriors. What they meant for humiliation, he turned into motivation. What they meant to bury, he used to plant. And as I looked at those signs surrounded by garbage, I smiled because I realized you can throw away my image, but you can't silence the image of God that I know I carry. And that's what this is really about. It's not about politics, but purpose. Standing for what you believe in will always cost you something. And if someone tells you otherwise, then they haven't stood up for anything. I've decided that I would rather stand alone in truth than sit comfortably in a lie.
I've been a big fan of your show my whole life. I used to watch it with my father on TV, and he's watching me right now, and so this is really a privilege. I'd like to say I agree with you on most things, foreign policy, domestic policy. However, there's one thing that I do not agree with you with.
Weed?
I do not smoke.
I hate weed. Everyone loves weed. All the cool kids love weed. I hate weed. So, okay, but I'm sorry, I won't guess. But tell me what you disagree with me on.
I do disagree with you on abortion.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
And I like to call myself a conservative, and sometimes it feels like a cop-out to say that I'm a pro-choice conservative. I'm a man of faith. I do go to church, and I believe in Jesus Christ, that he's my Lord and Savior. But I think that when I act as a conscientious actor the same way Henry David Thoreau did with not wanting to support a government that supports slavery in the same way Socrates did when he was in prison. I just don't think I can align the belief that abortion should be banned with the idea that the government should be limited and not infringing within people.
Does government have the right to prevent people from killing each other?
I mean, yes, to a certain extent. I think that...
What would be that extent?
I mean...
When can government not tell people not to kill each other?
In cases of self-defense. If someone breaks into
That is correct. That is correct.
If someone breaks into my property and I act in retaliation, I don't think the government should have the right to say, you can't do that.
I think you're absolutely right. Of course, I vehemently agree with you. I think the distinction would be the child didn't actually break in. The child didn't do anything wrong. And to the young lady who was asking me about the theocracy that she worries is coming. Not soon enough, sad. But, no, totally kidding, sort of. But, one of the basis of the Western justice I was just extolling is that you can't punish the innocent. That's why we don't believe in collective punishment. You only punish people who've done something wrong. And the worst thing that you can ever do in life and in the justice system is punish the innocent. The famous, was it Hugo Black or some famous Supreme Court justice said, rather have 10 men go free than one innocent man be punished. And I think most decent people feel that way. I certainly do. And that stems from a Christian understanding of justice. So it's hard to identify the crime the child has committed. Now, you could, I think we can conclusively say the child hasn't actually done anything wrong.
Yes,
so you can't kill him. And you could make the argument, and people have, that for the first, in fact, Roe made this argument, that the first 3 months it's not a human. I think it's kind of a weird argument. I don't agree with it, but at least it's an argument. But if the child can live outside the womb, you're killing an innocent person. That's not a close call at all. And people who call themselves pro-choice don't seem that eager to ban that. Like, that should be illegal tomorrow. If a child can live outside the womb, I don't care if you think the child is not up to your specifications, like the kind of child you want. Oh, the child has spina bifida or whatever. It's sad, okay, but it's not a crime. Having a birth defect is not a crime, is it? I know Hitler thought it was a crime. I don't think it was a crime. So you can't kill people who haven't done anything wrong. And I just think your position would have more credibility. I'm not attacking you at all. Again, I had your position, so I understand that people of good faith can arrive at the place you have. But I think it would be good to think that through, because there are tens, hundreds of thousands of post-viability children murdered every year in abortion, and can we allow that? How can we allow that? I can't hear what you're saying, but... Okay, well, I don't know. If 1% of the country were in slavery, you'd be like, it's just 1%. If something's bad, it's bad. And the government should be against it. What's the point of a government? The point of a government is to, maintain as they used to say, the monopoly on violence. It's the people we elect to maintain order and carry out the imposition of what we think is justice. And if we agree that you can't kill innocent people, and I hope that all of us do, then the government should prevent it. What's the point of having a government otherwise? It's not just to secure copyright and make it, easy for the hedge funds to operate. There has to be something else, and that would be a good place to start.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Carlson. I will be reflecting tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Allie. I'm Sparky Purcell from Biloxi, Mississippi. I'm a disabled veteran with pretty serious PTSD issues.
Wow.
And,
well, thank you so much. Thank you.
And, I have 2 boys at home, 12 and 14. My wife left me, of course, PTSD, you understand. So, but they made me come. They made me listen to Charlie Kirk for the last year. And I went, I don't want to listen. I don't go to church anymore. Don't want to go to church. And the reason why is that I felt like no one was there for me, before the military and the traumas. And then during the military, it was trauma, but it was people were there for me. After the military, there's nobody been there for me, except for the VA, But I don't have any people in any churches that really understand that, we would do anything for other people, but where are they for us? We've helped people build their houses for free, fix their cars, get them furniture, clothes for the kids. We run like dogs.
Yeah.
And my struggle is, how would you communicate to pastors and priests? Like, I would like to just say, look, this is not working.
Yeah.
You know, forgive me, it's not working for me. 40 years, I learned about Jesus 40 years ago, and you know, my team in the military, the unit I trained for, they love my studies. Oh, that's pretty good, Sparky. But I just feel overwhelmed, like I've give up.
Yeah.
You know, I have people give me stuff all the time for these families, and we just carry it to them, give it to them, and you know, we find out how they're doing. We get behind the doors is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But my problem is, I still see Baptists and Methodists and Catholics and Presbyterians. I don't understand that. Why is there no, you want open dialogue? And that's why I fell in love with Charlie's idea. I went, I got to get a hold of this guy.
Yeah.
Now I'm a little pissed that he's gone, but you know,
Me too.
the open dialogue thing won't happen in the churches. I can't talk about anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, it really gets people behind those doors. You know?
Yeah, and that's a big conversation, and you ask a lot of good questions, and a lot of your frustrations are totally understandable. Let me tell you this, people will always disappoint us, and they will always betray us, but Jesus never, ever will. He never will. And I know that can feel hard to believe when you feel like the people who represent Jesus aren't representing him well, and aren't loving you well, and aren't sacrificing well, and I totally understand that. I really encourage you, and I don't know what the churches are like in Biloxi, but I really want you to try again. And I really want you to get yourself a Bible, and I really want you to start at John 1, and I want you to just pray and say, God, if I'm missing something, will you show me? And I want you to start there, because that's where all of us start. People will disappoint you and fail you and betray you and leave you, but Jesus never, ever will.
Your generation is living at a crossroads, and you are living in one of the most defining moments in American history. And we are all witnessing in real time the battle that is raging for the soul of your generation. Again, your generation. This is far more than political. And you will hear the world and the culture, for that matter, pressure you and say, go with the flow, don't ruffle feathers, don't say that, you might offend someone, you might lose some friends if you wear a red hat, if you go to a Turning Point USA chapter event. But when I hear that, I need to be so blunt and honest with you now, because before, when I heard it, I said, okay. Now when I hear that, if you're worried about losing a friend, you might. I lost my friend. I lost my best friend. And if you're nervous about standing up for the truth, the assassination of my husband puts into perspective all those fears. It really does. Because my husband never went with the flow. He swam in the streams of significance. And Charlie knew so deeply to his core that comfort doesn't change the world. And you cannot influence the world when you look like it. The enemy of truth doesn't need to destroy a nation overnight. He just needs to convince people that truth no longer matters. And the enemy thrives when Christians don't speak up, when citizens don't vote, when students don't think for themselves. But in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11, it says, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. That's what it means to live as salt and light. To bring flavor to a world gone bland, and clarity to a world that lost its way and it's lost in confusion, because Christians are called to go into the public space to correct error with truth, and that's what my husband did. When he would sit there with his microphone, I got to watch this evolve over the years. At first, he would hold the microphone the whole time. He would listen. Then as the years went on, he would put the microphone down, and he wasn't listening, he was hearing. He was absorbing what the students were saying and what they were asking. He was engaging. He was calm. He wasn't combative. He never insulted. He just wanted you to think. Again, like I said, he never told you what to say. He just wanted to challenge you so that what your convictions were, you actually understood why you had them rather than they being talking points because your professor told you so or your friend told you so. He wanted the best of you because he demanded the best of himself. And Charlie would say this all the time. Your rights don't come from the government, they come from God. And he knew what every founding father knew, and nearly almost every university has forgotten, that you cannot have freedom without virtue, and you cannot have virtue without God. And that's what makes this nation so different. That's what makes it worth defending as a courageous generation. And another thing that Charlie used to say all the time is that it does not take skill to be courageous. It takes a choice to be courageous. And now's the time to make that choice. Either you sit on the sidelines. I mean, I don't know what else can wake you up. I really don't know what else could stir that fire within you to get involved or to use your voice or to make a difference. If you're looking for another sign, I have no idea what to tell you. I just want to encourage you, though, that yes, this is about America. And yes, my husband would say saving Western civilization. That's true on both fronts. But deeper than that, this is about your soul. Because the fight for freedom starts within. Inside of each and every one of you. So again, please stand firm against the wickedness of the devil and the schemes of man. Be alert because his tactics are so clever. What he'll do is he will find one thing. He will find fear, he'll find disappointment, he will find one thing, and he will wedge it in between you and the Lord, and he will make it grow. He will make it grow so much that you lose sight. It becomes this, almost like an eclipse, where the truth is hidden behind it. And yes, the light's still there, but you can't see it anymore. That's the enemy's tactic. And the bottom line is that the enemy doesn't need to change your theology. He just needs to change your vision. And if he can get in your head and blur your vision and distort your vision, he'll do it. He'll do whatever he can. But what the enemy forgets, though, is that the presence of a shadow is proof that there is light. He forgets that. And Charlie's murder might seem like we're standing in a shadow, as if death was the victory meant for the enemy, but looking around in this arena, you are proof that this light of truth burns so brightly. So brightly. The Lord is calling you to rise. Please hear me when I say that courageously. He is. Do not be afraid. It is so easy to be afraid, but we are commanded to not be afraid. And when you take that stand, it will encourage and inspire someone else to do the same. Whether that is someone in your circle, whether that's a family member, whether that's someone you never even met before because they saw you posting something on social media. You can't change a nation if you're enslaved to fear. And you can't call out corruption if you're still chained to comfort. And you can't stand for truth if you first do not kneel before the Lord.
Hello, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to talk here today. I did not agree with many of the things that you said right ahead of this, but I don't think that's my point to discuss here. What I want to ask is, you are married to a woman who is not Christian. In her Wikipedia, I just looked that up. I wanted to know what her faith was. I didn't know this before. But she still calls herself Hindu. You are raising three kids in cultural, racial, religious household. How are you maintaining, or how are you teaching your kids not to keep your religion ahead of their mother's religion? Or how are you teaching them that your kind, they're that kind who got here just few years or few decades ago is different or is better than your mom's kind who got here just a generation before? How are you balancing that? And when you talk about too many immigrants here, when did you guys decide that number? Why did you sell us a dream? You made us spend our youth, our wealth in this country and gave us a dream. You don't owe us anything. We have worked hard for it. Then how can you, as a vice president, stand there and say that we have too many of them now and we are going to take them out to people who are here rightfully so by paying the money that you guys asked us? You gave us the path, and now how can you stop it and tell us we don't belong here anymore? And one more thing, one more thing.
Sure.
Do you have to
There's a lot there. I don't know if I'm going to remember all this, but I will try.
I'm sorry. I had to say all of this, and please take it with due. I'm saying all of this with due respect.
Go ahead. Please.
I have no intention of causing a scene here or anything, but
we're not close to causing a scene. Don't worry.
But we talked about Christianity, all of this. I'm not even Christian, and I'm here standing to show support. Why are we making Christianity one of the major things that you have to have in common to be one of you guys, to show that I love America just as much as you do? Why is that still a question? Why do I have to be a Christian?
Okay, so there was a lot there, and I'm going to try to respond to as much of it as I can. So on the question of immigration, so first of all, I can believe that we should have lower immigration levels, but if the United States passed a law and made a promise to somebody, the United States, of course, has to honor that promise. Nobody's talking about that. I'm talking about people who came in violation of the laws of the United States of America, and I'm talking about in the future reducing the number of people. Sorry, what?
May I continue on that? Because when you just said you are not stopping with the people who came here legally, right? But you are pushing out policies that hurt us. And these policies are not even solving the problems. These policies are just creating chaos.
No, ma'am. Okay, so again, I'm gonna finish answering the question, and then if I've answered all 9 of your questions in less than 15 minutes, then we can keep on going. We got to have a little fun, right? So here's the thing. I can believe that the United States should lower its levels of immigration in the future, while also respecting that there are people who have come here through lawful immigration pathways that have contributed to the country. But just because one person or 10 people or 100 people came in legally and contributed to the United States of America, does that mean that we're thereby committed to let in 1 million or 10 million or 100 million people a year in the future? No, that's not right. We cannot have, I'll go and finish, we cannot have an immigration policy where what was good for the country 50 or 60 years ago binds the country inevitably for the future. There's too many people who want to come to the United States of America, and my job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world, it's to look out for the people of the United States. Now, you asked a personal question about our interfaith household. And yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we've decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But, thank you. My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her, and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priest who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can. And that's what I try to do. I want to make a final point. So I don't want to cut you off. I want to be respectful to all the people behind you in line. But I want to make this point about immigration, okay? If you ask the question, what is the exact right number of immigrants for the United States to let in, it is just very specific on the context. If you go back to the 1920s, the United States passed an Immigration Reform Act that effectively cut down immigration to close to zero for 40 years in this country. And what happened over those 40 years? The many, many people who had come from many different foreign countries and different foreign cultures, they assimilated into American culture. And there was an expectation that they would assimilate into American culture. I think we have two problems in our immigration system today. And my guess is you're probably a slightly more leftist political persuasion, liberal political persuasion, maybe not. But here's the thing. I remember back in my establishment GOP days, when I was still very early getting involved in Republican politics, I remember a conservative think tank person who told me that one of the reasons why immigration was really good is that if you had enough diversity in a country, people would mistrust each other and they wouldn't join labor unions. Okay? So when I see a lot of left-wing people who theoretically support organized labor saying we need to flood the country with a limitless number of immigrants, they're unwilling to set any limitations on it. My response to that is you are destroying the very social trust on which American freedom and prosperity was built. And that is really important to me. So the honest answer to your question, what is the exact number of immigrants America should accept in the future? Right now, the answer is far less than we've been accepting. We have got to become a common community again, and you can't do that when you have such high numbers of immigration, which is one of the reasons why we have the immigration policy we do. Thank you.
Hello, so we're in high school, and talking about politics is just really brutal because it goes straight to name calling. So my question is, for people who disagree with us, how can we try to find a way to commonly come together and talk about at our age?
Well, first of all, thank you, ladies, for being here tonight. This is absolutely incredible to have you.
And I would say if you ever feel like you are too nervous to talk to somebody or you're not sure what to say, remember our friend Charlie Kirk over there. Channel Charlie. Take a moment. Understand that you are speaking from a place of truth. You are speaking from a place of goodness. You are speaking from a place of understanding. And you can just tell these people that this is what you believe. They don't have to believe it with you. And that is the beauty of the United States of America, because we can agree to disagree in this great country. That's what it's all about.
Once in a while, you have to beat the drum. You have to stand up for what's right, even if it feels unpopular. So oftentimes, the things that feel unpopular are actually the most popular things. You can't back down, and you can't cower, and you can't hide, and you can't silence your voice, and you can't just think something and compartmentalize it. You actually really have to follow your heart, right? And you also have to be smarter than them. That's what Charlie did better than anybody. He was the best debater, and he was sharper than them, and he was right on the issues, right? So between the fact that he was smarter and he was actually correct in terms of the policy, he could win the debate. And that's what I hope you can both do, and I think that's what I hope we can all do. Be smarter than them and be right on the issues and win the debate, and do so using civility, and not evil and violence.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful.
Thank you, ladies.
Yes. Hi, I have a question for all four of you. In America, and I assume so in England, we have a problem with veterans and homelessness and mental illness. What are we doing as a society to help them? On the left, I see disrespect towards veterans in our culture where men can't talk and talk about their feelings, as our military is majorly men. But on the right, we make, and abortion is a big issue, and I disagree with abortion in general, but what are we doing to keep the people that are already here, that have fought for our freedoms here and on this earth?
Well, we have to take care of our veterans, otherwise this country's soul will rot. We need to take care of people who are protecting this country. So that we're doing better. This administration specifically is doing better, but we have to help. I mean, there used to be in World War I, there's a thing called shell shock, and then it was like, now it's down to post-traumatic stress syndrome. These are really tough things that these people come back from what they've had to endure. These are your neighbors. And I would just like to say this too, slight off subject. We need to figure out a way to include everybody to do what they can do for this country, not what this country can do for you. We need to put in a voluntary system of university students, and we need 2 years of your life. Dedicated. You want to do the military, you want to serve overseas, you want to help people. We need you to do that. We can't just have a group of people that's selective service and then just send people over. Everybody. So when there is a conflict internationally, everyone's son and daughter is potentially going to be sent there. And that will make us all think twice about some other war that we don't want to get tangled in. Thank you.
As I want to mention one thing as a veteran, and that is every country has to have both a force that will protect them from evil outside the country. That's what the military is about. And a force that will protect people from evil inside the country. That's the essential primary purpose of government, to protect innocent people from evil and punish wrongdoers. Biblically, that's Romans 13. James Madison, who wrote our Constitution, said if men were angels, no government would be necessary. We need a government, and a good government, to protect innocent people from evil. Here's my question to you. I don't know the answer to it. We have limited resources in this country to take care of people. Are we spending more money on people who shouldn't be here than we are on our own veterans?
Yeah, like gender reaffirming care.
Well, not just that. I'm talking about illegal immigration.
In this state. Now,
so that shouldn't be. Every country should take care of their own first. Yeah. That's why we have countries. That's why God set up borders.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, Peter.
Yeah, I have a very quick book recommendation by Michael Schellenberger, as it's appropriate, called San Francisco. And he lays out, if you haven't read it, it's a phenomenal book. It's evidence-based, and he talks about homelessness and drug addiction. And one of the things he talks about is a principle, shelter first, housing earned. So you have to incentivize sobriety. But if you want a point of contact to read about evidence-based solutions, that's my recommendation.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate
If
your
I
time.
can ask, I want Peter, if you could talk to us about, because he has a beautiful system. I want you to think about this, how to have difficult conversations. And it really was, because you're going to have difficult conversations with the people outside here who are still waiting for us to leave. How are we going to have difficult conversations, Peter? And how do we handle it?
Yeah,
Seriously.
thanks. So I'm preparing myself for the onslaught of booze I'm about to get for this, but in 2013, I wrote a book, A Manual for Creating Atheists. Oh, wow. Okay, that wasn't what I was expecting. And I walked backstage here, and I walked in to I don't know, my new friend Frank, who wrote, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And Frank came immediately over to me and shook my hand and said, Peter, it is so nice to meet you.